Hello, hello. I didn't know the little video went away. We're just staring at each other. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Happy Monday.
I'm still loving that song too. So a little dance party to get us started off with.
I need you to write our own song. We got to write one.
We got a good topic today, Jeremiah. Tell us about it.
Oh my gosh, we have so much to talk about in so little time. So it is Pride Month, as everyone knows, June, at least for most places around the country, it's Pride Month. So we wanted to talk about what Pride means to us and also talk about a little bit about our own experiences of what it was like coming out. So I know everyone's probably excited to talk about this, and we're just going to dive right in. How does that sound?
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So my first question for you guys was, and jump in, anyone who wants to answer this, but what were your biggest fears or challenges that you faced before you came out?
I guess I can go first. So, I thought maybe I was going to get kicked out of the house or sent away to go live with a different family member if I came out. Because I came out, Lord, today when I was in the third grade. Yeah, third grade. I sat my mom down and had a conversation and said, listen, we need to talk. Yeah. So, I didn't know because I came up with a really religious family. Both my parents were deacons. I think like half my family were pastors and preachers, and the other half were crackheads. And there's like no in between whatsoever, right? Literally. So I'm just like, what am I going to do? Be a preacher or do drugs? I'm like, no, I'll just be gay instead. But no, I think there was a real fear that they might say, hey, you have to go live with somebody else.
Yeah, that's real.
Right. So third grade, I mean, that brings up a lot of questions. Let's talk about how did you, in third grade, how did you know?
Yeah. So in third grade, that's when you start hitting puberty. You're like, oh, people are attractive. And for me, it was people were attractive. I'm like, oh, she's cute, but so was her brother. And I'm like, what's going on? And I'm like, should I be attracted to the same gender? Like, everything I was taught from the Bible was that if you were going to be gay, you were a sinner and you were going to go to hell. But I think I was just very insightful at that age where I'm just like, stuff was going on. So I have a very close relationship with my parents. So I was like, hey, we need to talk. Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask the other guys, what age were each of you? Josh, we'll start with you. What age were you when you came out?
I was a late bloomer, and I didn't hit puberty until I was at least in sixth grade myself, fifth or sixth grade. Lamont, I don't know if you were growing a beard back in third grade or what. But...
no, just here in the legs, just downstairs.
I mean, I didn't come out until my second semester of graduate school. So I was in my early 20s when I finally came out. Now I had certainly considered it and gone back and forth in my mind and all that kind of thing. But to be able to put my name and gay in the same sentence and not freak out about it took me all the way till, when I was in grad school.
What about you, Aaron?
So I'm a late bloomer too. I was 20. I graduated college. I was 22. And so for me, it was like, what am I going to lose? I'm going to lose my friends. I was actually dating a bunch of girls at the time. And I'm like, am I going to lose them? And, what I know to be how I've dated for 22 years. So yeah, it was a struggle. And I'll be honest with you guys, it's still a struggle. When I saw tonight's topic, I was like, ugh, this is going to bring up some stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. But I think as gay men, we're always coming out of the closet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So someone's like, "Oh, I've never had to come out of the closet." I'm like, "Really?" Like, I feel like when I say we're always coming out of the closet, like I think people make assumptions sometimes that we are heterosexual particularly like when you go into certain spaces. Like if I go into the barber shop or if I take my nephews to school and they're like, "Well, where's the other? Where's the mom or where's your wife?" And I'm like, there's no wife, there's a husband, right? So you still have to come out in those spaces. And sometimes it could be safe, sometimes it could be negative consequences as well.
Yeah, really, every time you meet a new person, I mean,
Right.
it's a whole nother process. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I didn't come out. Well, I came out in phases to friends and classmates and such, probably starting at age 17, even a teacher. But I didn't come out to my mom and dad, who were to me the biggest ones, the ones that mattered most, until I was around 23. And we'll get to this later. I didn't actually come out. So we'll come back to that, guys.
Really?
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Aaron, I'm going to put this back on you for a second because you already indicated this was hard for you now. So before you actually came out, like what was going through your head? What were your biggest fears and challenges that were going to go wrong, you know?
Oh my God, that, so Lamont said it best. He was like, am I going to get kicked out of the house? I don't think that was the case for me, but I thought that they were going to stop loving me. And for me, that was like everything. And if they stopped loving me, and if people like, my family, my friends, my close friends, that would have been, the absolute worst. For me.
Yeah. The love piece is real. Yeah.
So for me on that, my biggest fear was physical harm. I mean, I grew up in Pentecostal faith, Southern West Virginia. It was toxic masculinity, right? All the guys were tough and some of the women were too. So it was like in our family, there was definitely physical discipline and sometimes pushed to a certain limit. And I had a real fear of physical harm, from my dad, really. So that was the big problem that I had with coming out. Of course, they won't love me, they won't accept me. Yeah. But also just, I'm afraid, right? Physically. So, Lamont, in third grade, I know that was a very young age for you. Were there any, specific moments or people who helped you decide to come out at that age, or was this just kind of on your own? How you did?
It was definitely on my own. So I did not have like a gay uncle or lesbian aunt, and there were like no gay people publicly or like openly in my family. I did go to a church where I did see like one gay man. I was like, oh, that's Mr. Davey. He's cool. He's gay, right? But no, there was no one at all.
What about you, Josh? Was there anyone particular? Or was there a moment in particular that?
Yeah, nobody in my family. I was the pioneer in my family, at least that I know of. There's been several that have come out after me, which has been really nice. I've actually got a cousin who identifies as trans now, and so that's kind of a new thing for our family. And I've got I got to give it to my cousins and aunts and uncles and whatnot over in deep South Carolina, like are really stepping up to the plate. And I mean it. So anyway, but I was the first one in my family. It was, I mean, I didn't ever worry about, my family disowning me or anything like that. I mean, that thankfully was not something I had fear about, but church, as I think most of us have at least given a nod to, and I didn't even go to a hellfire brimstone kind of, I was Methodist. I mean, we're Methodists like to be nice, we're nice casserole carrying people, and that's a tradition that still resonates very deeply with me, but certainly through youth group and through conversations with Sunday school teachers, pastors, etc., homosexuality was inappropriate at best. and not something that we talk about, which of course the silence also sends a powerful signal of shame as well. And so that's, I think, just not wanting to disappoint or let down, or for people that I love to judge me and to think less of me, and also buying into some of the ridiculous narratives about what my life of suffering ahead was going to be like, you know, AIDS, or, you know,
Straight to hell.
beat up for a hate crime, you know, whatever it was. So anyway, those were a few things that come to mind, I guess.
Definitely
Aaron,
a negative
what about
things
you?
about like you're gonna what never be married, you're not gonna have
Mhm.
children, you're gonna die
Yep.
of HIV and AIDS and
Mm-hmm.
all those types of things. Yeah.
Or
Going
you're just
straight
not
to
going to
hell.
be happy. You're not going to be happy, right? I think that's
Mm-hmm.
something a lot of us hear is like, well, how can you be happy? And some of it comes off as, I'm just protecting you. I'm just looking out for you, you know. And really, there's some deep rooted, probably homophobia there as well. So,
Yeah. Well, and honestly, guys, they didn't understand, and to an extent, some of them still don't understand. I mean, think about it. When I was up, honestly, the only person that they knew that was probably gay was the choir director. Let's be honest. So, and that was it. And so they saw, and of course, they watched so many damn movies.
Mm-hmm.
They saw like everyone passing away of HIV and AIDS. So what they did was they projected their own feelings, their own insecurities and fears onto us when we came out.
Mm-hmm.
someone here in the chat says that they were rejected by one of their brothers when they came out, and that just left a big, huge scar for them. And I can empathize with that. You know, I think for a lot of us, it's always about the parents, the acceptance,
Mm-hmm.
the fear of rejection from our parents. You know, and when I started diving into some of my own trauma with my family and my mom and dad, I realized during those moments that my brother attributed to some of that as well. And digging deeper into that, I was really able to sort of explore, because you know, when it's a parent, it's sort of it's a hierarchy, right?
Mhm.
Right.
And when it's a sibling, there's sort of a peer. They're on the same age or around the same age. Sometimes that hurts more, right? Can you guys talk about any of your siblings? Lamont, come on.
Listen, like I will try not to get too emotional, but you know, I'm a triplet, so I have two other brothers who look just like me. We sound alike, everything look alike, and I had to come out to them. Well, one of my brothers, I won't say names, actually went through my phone. This is when I was in college. He went through my cell phone. I'm just like, how did you even have my password? One, probably because I have I don't know how he got into it, but he saw pictures of guys and like naked pictures of guys, of course, right? And he didn't say anything to me about it at the time. So when I told them, one was like, oh, okay, I'm hurt because he felt like we were supposed to share everything with each other because we're triplets. There are no secrets. He's like, you're supposed to tell me stuff, but I'm okay with it. The other one decided to get Bible scriptures and read them to me and prove to me how wrong it was to be gay. And years, like, we didn't talk to each other. When I say literally like years, no text messaging. I don't want to see you in person, nothing. Because I said you can either have a gay brother or you cannot have a brother at all. I'm not saying you have to accept, but you have to be respectful. And I don't need to hear your version of Jesus. I don't need to hear your version because I know my own self and my worth. So we didn't talk for years. Fast forward to I think my grandmother passed away. We forgave each other. We said, hey, let's become close again. He actually emceed my wedding reception. So this is someone who went from total you're going to hell, but it took him probably about 10-15 years to be accepting and open with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's a good segue into the next part of the conversation. And I think let's start with you, Aaron, if you don't mind to share. How did your family and friends react when you decided to come out? What was that like? Were there any surprises there?
I was very surprised at my mom, more surprised at my brother, who actually learned, I'd say probably 3 or 4 months ago. Josh and I talked about this, about 3 or 4 months ago. So my mother said to me, she was like, I didn't raise you like that. And I was like, oh shit. This was around Christmas in 2023. So I'm sorry, 2023, excuse me, 2003. So many, many, many years ago, 21 years or so ago. And that was scarring. My dad was cool. He was more accepting. My brother, interestingly enough, about 3 or 4 months ago, much to just like Lamont's story, began, castigating me about, who I am, and I'm God's child, and God doesn't like this, and you're gonna go to hell, and you're so smart, you're so intelligent, and so why would you choose this? And we had to have a come to Jesus moment, and I mentioned to him, Cain did kill Abel, so let's take it back a notch or two. Like, I'm not telling you for you to necessarily accept me. I'm telling you to keep, so that what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. What about you, Josh? You said your family was Methodist, which, again, not the fire and brimstone type of Christianity, but also, a little bit more like loving, I would say, than other sects.
Yeah,
So
my parents actually had gay friends, and so I think that was an advantage. I think that I reaped the benefit of later on down the road, because that was not. I mean, my first babysitter was a gay man. Come to find out, now he wasn't out of the closet at that time, but came out to my family. They loved him and didn't care, and my parents. The thing that one of the many things that I really love and appreciate about them is that it's sort of relationship above all else is really kind of the what they live by, and that really helped sustain me during that very difficult time. I remember I was home from college, or I can't remember I was out on the back porch. Me and my dad late at night like to have these late night conversations. We'll get to sipping on something, and we just sort of have these late night conversations. And he knew that I was struggling with this, because I'd been ridiculed for many years. There wasn't a day that went by that I didn't get called a faggot at school, from about 5th grade through at least 8th, maybe 9th grade. And it was pretty traumatizing. And there was some physical violence that went along with that at times as well. But one of the things my dad said to me on the back porch when we were sipping is, he said, Josh, the only way that you're going to be able to figure this out is if you go out with some girls and see what that's like, and then go out with some guys and see what that's like. And there was something really powerful about that conversation that gave me really the blessing that I needed, that final blessing to really go out and explore this, because I just didn't feel, I didn't worry about losing. I worried about my relationship with them changing. But and then of course, when I did finally come to terms with it, I was sitting, actually, it was the last beach trip that just my mom and dad and my brother took together, the 4 of us. And we were sitting on the beach together, and I took that moment as an opportunity to share. And of course, my mom started crying, and not because she was mad, but just because she was afraid of all the terrible things that she thought might happen. But we hugged it out, and then my parents kind of had to go through a bit of a coming out process also, as now that we're parents of a gay kid. What does that mean? And they kind of sort of pulled back for maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks, and just kind of had to do some soul searching for themselves. And then once they made peace with that, they came out of the closet as parents of a gay kid. And all of a sudden, all the people at church who either had a gay sibling or a gay kid or some, came out of the woodwork, and really a whole community was formed as a result. So it was a really powerful thing in all of our lives, but it was painful at first.
Well, so I'll answer this, but really I'll have to kind of jump into how I came out, or how my parents found out. So my dad was the minister of the church. He was always talking to all the members. And there was a day I was actually my first year of grad school. I get a call from my dad, which was not uncommon. He would call me several times a day. And dad calls me up that day, and I answer the phone, and his voice sounded different. And he says to me, "Are you a homosexual?" This is not what I had expected.
Straight,
Enunciate
yeah.
every syllable.
Yeah, are you a homosexual? And I was completely caught off guard by that. Of course, I was actually getting ready to go on a movie date with a guy, and was thrown off, of course. And I immediately became defensive, like, who said that? Why are you asking me this? And he's like, it doesn't matter. He kept hounding me. Just tell me the truth. And then finally he said, is it our fault? And I said, no, it's not your fault. So basically agreed, that I was. And he was crying. It was intense. I wasn't prepared. In my mind, coming out was going to be this whole, like, I'm very organized and I like to have a process to everything. I was going to write a letter and be out of the country. I had a plan in mind, and this was not it. So 2 days later, I had planned. I was moving apartments in my college town, and they had already planned to be there to help me move. They were always very kind parents and always very helpful to me and my brother. And they showed up that day. We didn't talk about anything. We moved every box. We set down the last box, and he turns to my mother, and he says, Debbie, get out the prayer cloths and the oil. And in Pentecostal church, we use prayer cloths to anoint people and to heal people. And the oil, as you know, is to also, anoint people with a healing. And they set me on my couch and performed an exorcism in my living room, essentially. I was crying because I was humiliated. And in that moment, my dad, the months after that, I will say, trying to make this short, guys, but
no, take your time, please.
My dad would call me every day and say, have you changed yet? Have you changed yet? So this went on for 6 months. So my mom was the preacher's wife, so she fell in line with my dad. So yeah, that was my little coming out story that I wanted to share with you guys.
Jeremiah, thank you for sharing that, because it always, like, because I have aunts and uncles who have they try to pray for you and say, hey, hopefully I can pray the gay away, or they'll send you scripture, or they would send me scriptures, like, I'm like, I've read this before, right? But that it just boggles my mind that people really feel like you can pray someone's sexual orientation away, like it is I don't know, like it's a demon, and it's like, no, this is just who I am. But for that sounds traumatic. It sounds traumatic.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's exactly how my family and my church viewed it. This was a demon, a demonic spirit that had infiltrated my body and made me gay. And you just need to pray that evil spirit away. And that's how they view in the Pentecostal church. That's how they view anything bad, whether it's a sickness or illness, or you're going through something. You can pray that away, essentially. And it was a good 6 to 7 months that my dad was every day calling, hounding me, have you changed yet? And the pressure I felt during those 6 to 7 months. And one day I was at work. I'll never forget this, because this was a turning point, because I had kept everything sort of internal. I wasn't going to a therapist. I wasn't talking to my friends about this, and I was just going to grad school, and I worked 40 hours a week as well. And I was at work one evening in the ER. I was worked in like the insurance and the billing part of medicine at that point. And as I was putting myself through school, and Dad calls me one day, and he was upbeat. I hadn't heard my dad be upbeat in a long time. And I could tell he was smiling on the other end of the phone. And he says, I have a great idea. And can you go on a break? And I said, oh my gosh, like maybe he's saw the other side of this, and maybe he's kind of figured it out. And I excused myself to go to the bathroom. And he says to me, I have a great idea. I said, what? Well, what is it? And he says, I'm going to pay for it, but I want you to move. We're going to move you from West Virginia to another city in North Carolina. I don't know why North Carolina. We're going to move you out of state. We're going to let you start over as a straight person because of all the influences that you've had that have made you this way.
Hmm.
So my dad thought, well, if it was, all the people that I was around, or, my college town or my college, he thought that had made me gay. And I'm going to tell you guys, that hurt me more than anything else. That he thought that he could move me somewhere else and all my problems would go away, right?
Wow.
So I broke down in that moment. That was my lowest moment where I was sobbing, honestly. And so much so that my boss at the time knocks on the bathroom door, "Are you okay?" Like, it was that bad. And I knew at that moment, this had bled out into other people in my life. I had to take control of my own life. And that's when I started setting boundaries with my dad. We'll come back to that, but that was the moment we kind of stopped talking about everything. And we didn't talk about anything for probably the next 13 or 14 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Painful.
Yeah. Thank you guys for listening to all that and allowing me to share that.
Well, and yeah, I mean, I think that one of the things that I have seen over and over and over as I meet with clients that are in various stages of coming out is that there's almost always a painful aspect to it, at least at first. When we share that information with somebody and risk losing that relationship. I saw somebody in the chat, Melanin Mula, put, why do people feel the need to come out at all? Can we address that too? Yes, I definitely think we need to address that. I'd love to hear. I've got some thoughts about that question, but I'd love to hear from others.
Josh, I'm curious, and I think Jeremiah said it without saying it. I mean, I think this is us coming out is a grieving process. Like, we're legitimately grieving oftentimes what we thought that we could be, and then of course, I think our parents are grieving what they wanted us to be as well. So it's not an easy experience, and I want to pinpoint that and put it on Front Street.
Yeah, I think when I hear this question, like, why do we still need to come out? I would say for two reasons. One, it's about self-acceptance, right? I think having, like, just like you want to love a woman, okay, I want to love a man, and I'm okay with that, because there's so much negativity, as we're all sharing, about what people say about gay men. I think, two, it's a political thing. Let's be honest, right? It's about being present and being seen. I think a lot of people are like, oh, keep that gay stuff out of my face. But wait a minute, you got all this straight stuff in my face, and I'm supposed to be okay with that, digest that, and accept that. But for me, being married to a man, you want me to be quiet about it, keep it private, and be silent. No, if you get to be public about your love story, your relationships, why can't I?
Right.
Why can't I?
Good point.
I would go on top of that and just say, like, for me, the need to come out, like, if you're trying to just live this authentic life, meaning who I am as a gay person, it's not everything about me, but it's a lot about me, right? It's who I hang out with. I have a lot of gay friends. I have a male partner. Do you want me to just lie about everything in my life just to soothe the fact that you're not comfortable knowing that I'm gay? So when you ask me things about my life, you want me to just lie? So, I have a wife, I'm going to be authentic. I'm at the age where you're going to get just me. It's raw. It's ugly. It's not perfect, but it's me, and I'm the only one. So,
this is something that I was actually at a church conference this past weekend. Methodists have an annual conference every year, and we were talking about the topic of racism. And one of the things that one of the presenters said was that racism causes us to lie to each other. That certainly, black and white folks not revealing who we really are to each other. And I think the same is true for any of these isms. And certainly homophobia causes me to lie. If I really buy into that, it causes me to lie about who I am. And in dysfunctional relationships, one of the things I talk about all the time with my clients is that at least two things have to happen in order to preserve a dysfunctional relationship. One, I have to disown parts of myself. And two, I have to stay in the shallow end of the pool in conversation. Like we can only stay at the surface level. We can't go deeper. And that really struck me in that conversation about racism, because I've certainly felt uncomfortable showing, full parts of myself in some of those relationships until I had done some deeper work, but certainly had to dig deep in coming out. And it's also an invitation to invite people in. Like when I make that information known to somebody, it's because I want to be known, and I want them to be a part of my life, and I want to be able to trust that I can be part of their life as well. So I don't know if that resonates with you all, but that's something that really jumped out to me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you guys, any of you guys have any regrets or about how you came out, or would you have done it differently at all? Maybe.
I didn't get a party. I mean,
you didn't get a party.
I wanted a parade. I wanted the cake. I wanted all of it.
I think for myself, Josh, I think I would have loved to have been in control of the narrative a little bit more for myself. So I think if I knew it was going to happen on this date, I would have had it more prepared. I would have been the one that wanted to come out, but you can't really go back and rewrite history or rewrite how your life played out, right? So you just have to kind of go with the flow. So, which is hard. I think coming out is such a hard, even for kids today.
Yeah.
So let's kind of move forward here. What advice would we give to someone who's just thinking about coming out?
I'd say, of course, be authentic, like you mentioned, Jeremiah. And I think it's also important for you to have a support system. It is, coming out to me, and this is just for me, I can't speak for everybody else, was an isolating, event for me. And so I would hope that there is a level of support that you can lean into someone when you're coming out, so that, you can hopefully feel safe with being able to come out with, that person or those people.
This is a heavy topic, guys. So it's hard to kind of guide someone, because I think everyone is in different scenarios. I would say, just come out now. Like, why are you waiting? But there's so many complexities and things that people might be financially dependent on a parent, or all those things that kind of complicate. So I want to give advice, but I want to say this is not for everyone in every situation. But what I will say is, get through it, get on the other side, get the other side to it, and life will be more beautiful once you're to that other side, whatever that means for you. Get there. Just the fact that you're going to be out from under this cloud, up from underneath this secret that's haunting you, it does get better, and it will get better. And it may take longer for some people, but it does get better.
Yeah. But to your point, Jeremiah, one of the things I used to tell, like, when I was in college, like when I was really coming out, I would tell my peers, I would say, hey, make sure you are financially independent. If you are going to come out to your parents. Because again, my biggest fear was that I was going to be like third grade Lamont was going to be on the street, or they're going to be sending him somewhere else, because they're like, you can't do that in my house. One of the things that my coming out story, I told my mother only. I didn't tell my brothers, my father at all. I waited until I was an adult to have those conversations with them. And she kept that secret for all those years. Like, she literally did not have a conversation with him about that. But I would say do it when you're ready. Don't feel like you're pressured to come out of the closet. Even in current day, where people are more accepting and open, there are still some people who have old school thinking, and still may inflict violence. You might lose your job, be put out of school, you name it. So I would say, take your time. Take your time.
What about you, Josh? I know you have some good advice.
Well, certainly the financial piece is at the very top of the list. Is that you got to make sure, it's kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We got to make sure that safety and food and water and shelter are kind of in place before we can really progress to address some of the emotional, social needs that come after. But also one of the a little exercise I invite folks to do is to kind of come up with a green light, yellow light, red light list of people, specific names in one's life. And, the green light list is people that you have heard maybe them in conversation indicate that they either know gay folks, they're okay with it, they are supportive. Like if just through your own analysis of who that person is, this is somebody that's likely going to be okay with this. Yellow light, of course, is folks that, it could go either way. And then red light, of course, is folks that we know are not going to be okay with it at all. And to be systematic in terms of, all right, let me start with the green light list and pick off a few of those folks, and that those folks then can be supportive and strategize with you about how to then share that information with some of the more difficult folks. So that's one way that, and we'll spend, not several, but a handful of sessions kind of working through that list in a lot of ways, just to be intentional about it. I think we want to claim our own narrative, and we want to tell a story the way we want it to be. And so I think being intentional is a real powerful thing about coming out.
You guys we've kind of hit on this throughout the conversation, and Lamont, you definitely touched on it as well. Just how different it is maybe coming out now than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago, right? How does coming out experiences different across generations and even like different cultures? Mm-hmm. So what do you guys think about that?
Mm-hmm. I definitely think it's different now than it certainly was in the 90s and before that. I think I remember, we see fully developed gay characters on TV now. The first fully developed gay character I ever saw was the gay couple on 6 Feet Under, that HBO series.
Yep. Oh, yes.
That is my favorite.
I had the biggest crush on him.
Yes, me too. But I mean, but seeing, oh my God, these are like guys that are real people. They're not just the stereotypical florist or the stereotypical choir director, whatever. Mm-hmm. These are like, one was a cop and one was a funeral director, and they were just living there. Anyway, so I think that's a big difference, is that folks have seen themselves reflected back in some of the media that in a way that we didn't really have that before.
You made me think of something that I think it was on TV, My So-Called Life. Mm-hmm. Do you guys remember the gay Ricky? Okay.
Ricky, yeah.
Full circle moment. I went on a date with Ricky like 7 or 8 years ago.
Oh, wow.
He was a great guy. He was visiting Atlanta, and we had a nice evening dinner. But what a full circle moment, right? When you see like someone that was the first gay person you saw on TV, mm-hmm. and now you see them in real life. That's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
What about you, Aaron? Like, what have you noticed across? You see a lot of clients, so tell us a little bit more about that.
It's a lot more accepted now, and let's be honest. So just FYI, I don't know if you guys know, Josh. I'm sure you know this. If you don't, shame on you. Noah's Ark is coming back in 2025. Just FYI. You said Ricky, and he was on that show. Yeah. Anyway, so it's different. It's real different. Like, this is true story, guys. I was traveling out of the country. This is, I think, I went to either Italy or Spain, one of those two places, and they were asking, where I was from. So I'm like, I live in Atlanta, and so on and so forth. And these folks literally said, such and such who's on the Housewives and all those fabulous gay guys, and they're amazing. So our representation, even though it's not necessarily the best on the Housewives, mm-hmm. realistically it reaches so many audiences. Mm-hmm. So we're widely accepted across the world. And so for me, I think that, many years ago, we were represented in a negative light. I mean, let's think about it. We all watched, what's the name of that damn movie? It was heart-wrenching. There were so many.
Which one?
Yeah, exactly. There were so many.
Fires Club? No.
Brokeback Mountain?
No, I'll think about it and let you guys know. But we watch so many movies. Something of the Heart. I can't think of it. Something Heart.
The Normal Heart.
Holiday Heart.
Yes. No, Normal Heart. I think that's what it was. Anyway, where they used to call it the gay cancer. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Angels in something.
Well, yeah, Angels in America, and then there was Normal. They both became HBO miniseries.
Yes.
But they were both stage productions before that.
so think about that, guys. When we were, in the 90s, 2000s, that's how we were depicted. Now, in 2024, we can go across the world. We're depicted as these vibrant, funny, smart, quick-witted guys. So it has changed tremendously. And I want to just, articulate that.
Yeah.
I want to ask a follow-up question, and this is, and Josh, you can chime in on this as well. Since we're talking about culture, black and white, let's just stick it to there. Do you guys see a difference in the black experience of coming out versus the white experience? And talk to that as much as you can. I'm just curious to hear what you guys have to say.
I definitely think there's a difference. I think there's some similarities as well, and also each family is unique. Each individual is unique as well. Yeah. I can speak, I guess, sort of as a white person and somebody who works with a variety of races in my practice. It's white folks don't have as many levels of oppression that they're dealing with. I think some levels of oppression are hidden in ways, but being a black or brown person in this country is a lot different than being a white person in this country, and more challenging. And so that's, I think, complicates things in a way that white folks, we have our challenges and struggles and pain, but that is not one of them. And so it's a different experience. Lamont, I'd love to hear your thoughts about that.
Yeah, I think I'll try not to make generalizations, put that out there first. But then also, I think there is such a unique relationship between gay men and black women. Like, there is this bond that exists that I think done correctly, there's just no other type of relationship between a gay black man and a black woman, right? I think coming out or in the black community where it's more acceptable is if you're more feminine, like if you're more like you were here, hair, nails, makeup. Black women will love that. Like, they'll yes girl you all day long. Yes, you my Judy. Come on over here. But if you present more masculine, it becomes a problem. It becomes a problem because you now become a potential threat or an option that, it's just one, you're not attracted to women. So if they're like, wait, you're a waste of a man because you're masculine, you're attractive, you're a waste of a man. And when I hear those comments, I'm like, fuck you. Like, I'm not a waste of a man because I choose to love another man. So I think you will see homophobia start to creep up in the black community. More masculine you are, but if you're femme, you're safe. You're one of the good ones. Like, we cool with you. But I think that's the difference I've seen.
That's so interesting that you say that, because I would say my experience, and it's not might be because I'm white or just because I'm from a small town in rural Appalachia. I would say it's the opposite. I would say if you're masculine, you have more passability and you have more acceptance, because it's like, well, you're gay, but you're not one of them gays, right? And so it's kind of opposite, at least from my experience.
That I can definitely echo that, Jeremiah. Just that the feminine gays were the stereotype and to be ridiculed and othered. Whereas if you're more masculine,
He's cool.
Yeah, you're not trying to rock the boat.
But do you see any representations of masculine gay men in anywhere?
Say that, Jeremiah. Sorry, say that, Lamont. Absolutely.
Like, nobody wants to see a masculine black gay man. They're like, no, that doesn't exist. It doesn't exist because y'all all feminine, right? And when I say it's different in Black communities because they want to silence or say you don't exist. Because there's no way in the world that you can be masculine and be gay. There's no way. There's no way.
mean, let's be honest. Being masculine, being intelligent, being a social activist, being someone who, I mean, realistically is the epitome of a Black man and what society deems as a Black man, that's a no-no, especially if you're gay.
Yeah. I do think it is. This is my own 2 cents. It's not everybody. I think it becomes the competition.
That's what I was going to say.
It is the competition where like we're competing over the same men, right? And that becomes the struggle that Black gay men and Black women have to go through. So I say if it's done the right way, there are amazing relationships that can be formed between us. But that shit that we've been taught, yeah, it's still there.
Do you think there's a level of power struggle there? Meaning, like, okay, if you're this, well, I'm going to use the word Nelly. Okay, that's like
Nelly, the rapper?
Nelly. No, like you're a Nelly girl. You're a Nelly.
A Nelly
queen.
Nelly
right?
Queen, yeah.
If you're a Nelly,
I don't know
if you're
Nelly.
a feminine queen, if you're a feminine guy,
Okay.
then you're here. You're down here, right? You're not a threat to me. Not so much about my man, but you're always going to be this feminine guy, and that's
right.
But if you're this masculine, educated Black man, right? That's a formidable person. The world is your oyster. So is there any like power dynamic there that you've noticed? Could you talk a little bit more about that outside of you want my man, you know?
Absolutely. I know Lamont has a lot to say about that. I'm just going to jump in just real quickly. We associate femininity with being weaker.
Right.
So oftentimes we will say, okay, that person is psychologically, physically less, they're weaker. With a man who is who resembles someone who looks good, who may be chiseled, who works out, who is intelligent, and he happens to be gay, as Lamont said, it's almost like, well, damn, we lost you.
Waste of a man.
Yeah.
So when my partner came out to his mother, that was the one thing that she said to him, basically, what a waste of a man, you know?
Yeah.
And he still holds that to this day. He brings it up, and I think that hearing that is so damaging. But here's the big question, you guys. We've talked about how we came out. Let's say if we could go back in time for just a minute, and someone comes to you before you come out. Maybe this is you, Lamont, in 3rd grade, or you, Josh, at 22, 23, or you, Aaron, later in life. But if someone says, "Here's a pill. This can make you straight," would you take it? Why and why not?
I like my life too much at this point to take the what is it, the blue pill?
Rainbow pill, Josh.
Rainbow pill. Yeah. No, I don't think I'd give it up at this point. There's too much community. There's too many loved ones that I've found and been accepted and loved by, and it's a fun life. Our community is fun, and we're good. I mean, it's just, I don't know, everything about it. I just went to this dance party last night called the Shaka Khan Hacienda, and it's the first one of the season, and it's just this festival of be yourself, do you, show up however you want, and it's just beautiful.
Such a great party. I actually would love if we could all go there sometime. It's such a celebration of diversity and queerness, and everyone is represented there, I think.
If my partner is listening, sweetheart, we're going.
Next month. Let's plan it, guys. What about you, Lamont? Like, would you take that pill if you could do it all over?
Absolutely not. I would not take a pill that would make me want to be heterosexual, even in 3rd grade when I came out. No, I think even some of the friendships I've lost, some of the family members who still don't communicate with me, some of the fights I've had to like literally fight people because they're like, oh, hey, the F word. And I'm like, well, we can fight. I can show you who is really something, right? There has been hard conversations I've had to have with God, like tough conversations, like, bruh, really? This is, you gonna make me this way and then tell me I'm going to hell? Like, there were times where, like, I tried to pray it away. There were times where I thought about killing myself just because of what people said about who I was. It wasn't what God said, but it was about what people said about who I was. Like, there's no way. I think being gay has allowed me to question everything. Has allowed me to create my own narrative of who I am, and just live the life that I want on my own terms. And I feel like if I was heterosexual or straight, I would be trapped in this box of expectations that some of them can't even live up to, and I would not want to do that. No.
Wow. What about you, Aaron? Come on.
You know, I'll be honest. I don't think that I would, but I can understand why some would. If you guys have ever seen Lamont, you just like triggered something in my head. I don't know if you guys have ever seen The Hour from Detroit. It's a really good show. If you haven't seen it, it's on BET Plus. Not doing a promo, just saying it's a really good show. The main character, one of the main characters in it is gay. And he says this. He says, just because I'm gay doesn't mean that I'm not a blank.
Ninja.
There we go. There we go. And so I say that to say that just because we are, it doesn't take away from our masculinity. It doesn't take away from the people that we are. It doesn't take from our abilities to be authentic. So just want to say that.
Yeah. I would say, when I've been asked that question before, and I think there was a time in my life when I didn't know what I know now, I would have, if you would have said that, I would have, when I was 18, praying every day on my knees, praying to be changed. I was, oh yeah, I'll take that pill. But now, as a 41-year-old man who's really gone through so much, where I've, what I say is I've worked too damn hard to be this damn gay. And I'm not going back. It's really, it's a beautiful life once you get through it. And you get on the other side. That's why I tell people, just get through it, and life will be better because you're living more authentically yourself, and that's the most beautiful way to live. So since we're in Pride Month, I wanted to kind of talk to each of you and kind of find out, what does it mean to each of you personally? Like, there's a lot of politics involved. There's a lot of it that's with family and the religious culture, but what does it mean to you now in your life?
You get half off at H&M?
Oh, I didn't even know. Is that true?
Somebody made that up.
How do you prove it is what I want to know.
Question.
That's what the dressing rooms are for. I'm just kidding.
I love it.
Pride Month for me, I mean, it's Atlanta, we have sort of October Pride, and then of course Labor Day weekend is Black Gay Pride, and I mean I'm for Pride every weekend all year long. I mean, the more the better, in my opinion. But I think for Pride Month, it's a recap of history. We know, some folks may not know, the reason that June is Pride Month is that because in 1969, that was when the Stonewall riots happened in June of 1969 in New York City. And that's why June is Pride Month, because of that history. And it's important to remember those who have gone before us, those who came along at a very different time, who suffered a lot and worked really hard to get things where they are today. And certainly we have a long way to go, but it's a time of pride. I mean, it's pride for a reason, like to be proud of myself and to be proud of our community and all the things that we fought so hard, and also to remember those who made those sacrifices. That's something for me. And then of course all the parties and the drag and all that stuff as well.
Yeah. What about you? Do you have anything to add to that?
For me, it's reflection. I'm not one that actually goes out and wears a rainbow flag. Sometimes I have some shoes that are rainbow, which I got at H&M, just letting you guys know. And they were half off. But anyway, so realistically, it's a time of reflection. It's a time kind of like what Josh mentioned, and as I've mentioned before, just to sit back and kind of reflect on all the people who've gone before us. You know, I always think about this, and I tell my clients this as well. There was a time when, you know, having unprotected sex would have killed you. Now we have pills that allow you to be able to do that if that's something that you decide to do. So for me, it's definitely a time of reflection.
Yeah.
Lamont?
Yeah, I hear when people say, "Well, why do you all need a Pride Month? Like,
Right.
why? There's no straight month. Apparently, there's a straight day at some bar. I won't even say in the place, but there's no like straight month. But I'm like, well, you all get to have that day every day of the year, and we have Black History Month, we have Hispanic Latino Awareness Month, like we have spiritual, religious weeks, observations months as well. So why can't we have a Pride Month? And I feel like it is a time that we get to celebrate, we get to talk about our norms, our culture within our community, and it's a time for people just to be seen. I know people are like, well, you all just want to put your harnesses on and just gyrate and blah, blah, blah. Well, that might be a part of it, and that's okay, right? You do what you want to do for your religious, your spiritual, your cultural month. No one critiques you about what you do, right? Some of y'all don't eat for the whole daggone week. Like, but no one is critiquing you about not eating food, and you're talking about what we do as a part of our custom, our norm, right? And I think we should just allow people to be who they are so that we can continue to grow together.
Yeah. Someone in the chat said, Pride should be meaningful in many ways. Sadly, it is just time to party for most. And I wish I had something, you know, inspirational to add to this. You know, I think it is a time for reflection and is a time to pay homage to those who have come before us, right? As Josh mentioned. But realistically, I'm not going to sit up here and say that every day I'm reading the gay Bible and, you know, celebrating who came before me. But for me, really what Pride Month has become, and it does change with every year. But this year so far, it's really just been seeing that we have a strong community and seeing that in so many ways, whether it's celebrated at Shaka Khan or the pool party I went to over the weekend. This is Pride Month, and people are generally a lot more friendly, welcoming. A lot of people have their guards down because we're celebrating a common thing, right? If we're all here for one thing and we all have something in common, then we can, for that moment, put down everything else and just be kind, you know? And for me, I guess it is just a sense of community that I belong to this community of people. And we've gone through a lot, but we're in it together.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what it's meant.
Good.
Something you said, Jeremiah, really, I think was really on point. And is that being able to see that I'm not alone, you know, during Pride, you know, like I remember the first, in fact, this may come as a surprise or not to some of you all. The first Pride I ever went to was Black Gay Pride in Atlanta. I was volunteering with the film festival.
I'm not surprised.
It's where it all started. But I was just starting to come out. I had some gay friends at the grad school I was at, and they were all plugged into leadership at Black Gay Pride. They were like, "We need volunteers. You're coming with us." And so that was my first Pride experience, and it changed my life. I mean, it was so, even though I was not really the demographic being celebrated there, that was fine because the energy was still exciting and freeing and liberating and all of that. And it's contagious. And I think that's one of the things that I'm so excited when I see a baby gay come to experience Pride for the first time.
Yes.
It's so awesome to see like new possibilities and sort of the scales fall away from somebody's eyes when they see that there is not one way to be gay or LGBTQ or queer or what have you, that we are in everything. And there's something really empowering about that. So
it's beautiful. And I think everyone's at a different stage in their life. Everyone has a different lens to view it from. And that's going to change throughout your life. My first Pride to this Pride, like every year it has a little bit of a different meaning. And
Mhm.
I think that's the beauty of just growing and getting more experiences under our belt. So, you guys have anything else more to add to that?
I think you make Pride what you want it to be.
Yeah.
Some people are like, oh, Pride is, just a whole bunch of clubs and parties. Well, if you don't want to go to the clubs and parties, don't go to clubs and parties. Go to the workshops, go to the festival, go to the film screening, go to the volunteer event, go to the prayer meeting that they have. So there's so much that goes on during these Pride events. You get to pick the part of Pride that makes the best sense for yourself.
That's right. So next week, my partner and I are actually going to, well, it's the first week of July. We're going to Madrid Pride, which is one of the biggest. It's the biggest Pride in Europe, from what I understand. And believe it or not, I've talked to so many people here in Atlanta who are going to that specific Pride. I don't know why Madrid this year. I think some of it has to do with a lot of people. One of the big international prides has always been Tel Aviv. A lot of guys like to go to Tel Aviv for Pride. And this year, obviously, not a great idea. So I think that was sort of the fallback for a lot of people.
Yeah. I love Madrid.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Beautiful.
What do you love about Madrid, Lamont?
The people are so lovely and the food is great. There's so much culture. It's
The architecture.
the architecture. Yes.
So, how's the food, Lamont?
The food,
What exactly is it that you eat over there at Lamont?
it needs some salt, okay?
Wow. You guys, this has been so much fun getting to share this experience with you guys. I really would just want to say to each of you, thank you guys for sharing your coming out stories and all the details. And I just can't wait to see you guys in person again.
Yes, and thank you, Jeremiah, for a great job hosting and for the vulnerability involved in opening up this part of ourselves to each other and also to those that are chiming in. And we had a lot of folks that chimed in about their stories in the chat. I hope folks will take a moment to read through some of those comments. Very meaningful.
Good job, guys.
Yeah, great job.
As usual.
Yeah.
I love the conversation. And I guess for people who are watching, like if there are other topics you want us to discuss, you have all of our social media handles under our names. You can send us a DM and say, hey, why don't you talk about X, Y, and Z, or here's a topic. And we can brainstorm our group and then we can see if we can make it work.
Yeah. I think I saw in the comments that someone asked about Josh going to Black Gay Pride, and we want to talk about that for an hour next time. So.
It was a great weekend.
My first ever club I came to when I was visiting Atlanta to interview at Emory was, and I know one person here through a friend. He said, I'm going to give you the full Atlanta experience. And he took me to Bulldogs. And then after we went to Zaxby's.
Zaxby's.
Yeah. Because, you got to have some chicken tenders after drinking. So
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, you guys, thank you so much.
Great show, you all. Thank you so much.